The group kept laughing at Kai before they formed a circle and started talking using spiritual messages. This was great for Kai as he needed some time to plan his next move. He only had enough spiritual energy to use a single move. He sat up and started thinking about some ideas. Now the problem was that Kai's move took to ain't much spiritual energy, and he didn't have enough of it to use them. However, if he forcefully used them, he might die, and this time he would die for good. And he couldn't die before finding his harem and taking their revenge. He had some low-level technique, but the problem was that he didn't know the group's cultivation. The move might be useless against them. If they had a higher cultivation than Kai, he could use his spiritual energy on them to try sense their cultivations, but it will be a stupid thing to do. Unlike Jin, who had to touch Kai to use his spiritual sense on him, Kai could use spiritual sense without touching anyone. Most people in the mortal cultivation realm didn't know this, but the spiritual sense they used was a fake, or rather undeveloped version of the original one. Real spiritual sense developed when someone reached the last realm of the mortal cultivation's realm. That spiritual sense could be used in a particular radius around the user by their spreading spiritual energy inside it. It wouldn't work on the cultivations that were in a more advanced realm compared to the user. However, if your opponent was in the same realm as you, or other realm was lower than your realm, you will be able to sense their cultivation. But it didn't work for Kai because he didn't know the mortal realms. And if he used spiritual sense, or rather, was still able to use spiritual sense, he could lose what little spiritual energy he had. Before he could think of anything else, the group stopped talking and started walking towards him. All of us think that you saw what fell from the sky, and that thing missed you up, so we have decided to kill you. No hard feelings. Elderjin said, in a amused tone. An idea clicked inside Kai's mind, and it was something he hated, but he didn't have any other choice. The idea he had was planned, stupid, and might bite him in the back later on, but there was nothing he could do about it. He got alright. That thing saw me, and I was frozen in fear. When it saw its appearance, however, that thing didn't run. It's still here and shows hatred towards you. Kai sat with an evil grin, and his eyes looked as he too belongs to a madman. Jin and others stopped in their tracks once they heard Kai's words. They looked around to see if anyone was there, but I could see anyone. Oh, is he not there? He is precisely inside me, and I have access to its power. Kai said again, and laughed, making them all step back. After Kai was assured that the distance between them and him was enough, he used the only move he could use. The move's name was Light Steps, and it was a technique that could be used to teleport from one place to another. His body started to emit a white light, and he started vanishing. Jin realized that Kai was trying to run away, ran at him as he tried to capture him. Unfortunately, Kai already gone, and Jin only grabbed thin air. He furiously told others to search for him, even though something in his heart told him they won't be able to find him. Kai apparently 20 kilometers away from the group and immediately crashed on the ground. He took a few deep breaths and relaxed his body a little. Whatever spiritual energy he had was gone. He was furious with himself for using such a cowardly strategy, and for the first time he let himself think what would have happened if I had a little power, as if the universe wanted to mock him. His body started to grow. Numerous information filled his head. His body was once again flowing with spiritual energy, and he remembered many things about the mortal cultivation. The starting thing being the cultivation realms. There were 7 mortal cultivation realms. Each of them was divided into 10 stages. The names were Jin, Yin and Yang gathering realms, Earth realm, Sky spirit realm, Hell spirit realm, Heaven spirit realm, Emperor spirit realm, Divine spirit realm. Kai was finally able to use his spiritual sense on himself, and he found out that he was at the 9th stage of the Heaven spiritual realm. He sighed at the sense he didn't have his power during the time he needed it. He teleported back to see if the group was still there, but just like he had expected, they were gone. He tried to use his spiritual sense in a radius, but it only extended to 20 kilometers. Before stopping there, he just sighed and started using some of his techniques to see if he could still use them. It took him an entire day to use 2 of his most weakest techniques, as he had to recover his spiritual energy after the first one. It was a good thing I bound it with my blood, Kai said to himself after he had used the 2 techniques. He bit his right thumb, and surprisingly, gold blood came out of it. This was shocking, as only gods had this in their veins. If Kai had ichor in his veins, this means that his body was still part immortal. Another thing was that he could still use a real spiritual sense without being the divine spirit realm. But he would search that later, as he dropped the golden blood on the ground and rippled emerges in the air around Kai's neck. A golden pendant with a weird symbol dropped around Kai's neck, and it was pure purple in a color, and Kai treasured this thing with his life, and because of that, he had bound this thing with his blood, so that he will be able to summon this anywhere. Inside this were so many things that your mind will be blown away by them. The reason for this was that this pendant also served as a space pendant version of the space ring. Only difference, other than this being a pendant, that being a ring, was this pendant had infinite storage inside it. If I still have acquire in my veins, does this mean that I still have Guy's voice? Trailed off as he glanced at his left hand and see what he can do with them. But from that forward, he has continued to walk and think for the next time he will think